The other day we looked at constructing triangles. Now we're going to look at constructing polygons. So some key things to know, these key terms. We have parallel lines, which are two lines that never intersect. We have perpendicular lines, which are two lines that meet at a 90-degree angle. We have triangles, which we already worked with, which are polygons with 3 sides and 3 angles. And then quadrilaterals, which is really what we're going to be looking at today, which are 4-sided shapes, just in general as quadrilaterals. But we have more specific ones, and the two that we are really going to focus in on are parallelograms and trapezoids. What is important to note is a parallelogram has 2 sets of parallel sides. So for example here, this is a parallelogram because it has 1 set of parallel sides and a second set of parallel sides. Versus a trapezoid only has 1 set of parallel sides. So just in general here, we've got 1 set in that trapezoid. You've got specific types of trapezoids. So this is isosceles because the 2 sides are congruent, or a right trapezoid because it has a right angle in it. But it only has 1 pair of parallel sides versus 2. And that is going to be important to note when we're making these shapes. Another thing that is important to note, for a parallelogram, this angle right here on the top left is congruent to this angle on the bottom right, versus this angle on bottom left is congruent to this angle on top right. For trapezoids, and specifically what we're going to focus in on here are these isosceles trapezoids, okay? The bottom angle of an isosceles trapezoid should be congruent, and the top angles of an isosceles triangle or trapezoid should be congruent. So knowing that, let's figure out what shapes we are drawing here. So number 1, draw a right triangle with 2 congruent sides measuring 4 centimeters. So isosceles triangle. All that I need to do is I'm going to draw a line. Okay. And we're going to make a 90-degree angle first because it is a right triangle. So I'm lining up my vertex, lining up the lines here. 90 degrees is right here. So I've created my 90-degree angle. Now we want 2 sides measuring 4 centimeters. So down here, I'm going to mark 4 centimeters. I'm starting at 4. So my 4 centimeters are going to be at 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. And then on the left side as well, I'm starting at 5, or trying to. So my 4 centimeters is going to be at 1, 2, 3, 4 at the 9 right here. And I'm going to connect these 2 points. And now I should have a right triangle with 2 sides measuring 4 centimeters. All right, let's look at another shape here. It says draw a quadrilateral with two 50-degree angles, 2 130-degree angles, and most importantly, 1 set of parallel sides, which immediately I should know that this is a trapezoid, and because it's got congruent angles in here, it's going to be an isosceles trapezoid. So let's start. I am going to draw a line. Doesn't matter the length on the bottom. Let's draw a longer one, okay? And pick a point. For me, when I'm looking at trapezoids, I picture them this way. You don't have to do it that way, but our smaller angles are going to be in the inside so that it angles towards each other. Versus if you do your large angles on the bottom, it's going to look like this. So, looking at this shape, I'm going to do my 50-degree angles on the bottom. Remembering that for a trapezoid, the 2 on the bottom for isosceles are congruent. So on the left side here, I'm going to line up my vertex and the lines. We're doing 50-degree angles. So our 0's on the inside, 50 is right there. So I am just going to draw a line connecting those. So this is 50 degrees. I'm going to do the same thing on any other point here. So maybe I do it all the way over on the end here. Line up my vertex. Line up the lines that connect them as close as I can. 50 degrees. My 0's on the outside, so 50's on the outside, which is right here. And drawing them, connecting. Remember that there is a little bit of human error, okay? Right now it looks like a triangle. We don't want a triangle. We want a trapezoid. So it didn't say anything about the side measures. I just know that I'm gonna need to have it be some length, and then up here is gonna be our 130-degree angle. So I picked a point, and now I'm gonna draw an angle from that point. And I'm gonna use this as my line. So I'm gonna line up this with my vertex. Okay. I'm using this on the right side, so my 0's on the inside. I'm gonna find 130, which is right here. Draw that mark and connect. And now if we look at that, that should look like a trapezoid. So this should be 130 that we just measured, as should that. All right, let's look at number 3. Draw a quadrilateral with 2 sets of parallel sides, 2 angles measuring 35 degrees and 2 angles measuring 45 degrees. So we have 35, we have 145. And then most importantly, 2 sets of parallel sides. I'm going to draw a measure. Does not matter how much. Does not matter the length there. Okay. I'm going to pick one of the angle corners. Okay, and let's do the 35 degrees. Why not? So I'm going to line up my vertex and the lines. 35 degrees. We're looking on the right. Our 0's on the inside, so 35 is going to be right about there. Okay. All right, and then 145 degrees. Okay. What we need to remember is that for a parallelogram, these opposite sides of angles are congruent. So if this is 45, if this is 35, that one's going to be the 145. So over here, maybe I pick this point right here. That is going to be our 145 degree angle because this is 35. So here, we're doing 145 degrees. So I'm going 0's on the outside. 145 is all the way over here. So I'm going to connect those two to each other. So this is 145. Okay. Then, remembering that either I'm going to pick a point right here and do a 35-degree angle, or I'm going to pick a point right here and do 145, because the opposites are congruent. Let's say I pick a point right here. So I'm going to tilt my paper. I'm going to line up my vertex and the lines. Okay. I'm looking on the left, my 0's on the outside. I want a 35-degree angle, so that's right about there. And I'm connecting these points to each other. And that looks pretty good for a parallelogram, right? So this opposite angle here should be 145. This angle right here should be 35. And I forgot to do this for the other shape, but I'm going to do it for this and go back to it. We should show this right side is parallel to the left side. The top is parallel to the bottom. So up here, I should have shown that the top was parallel to the bottom. All right, last one. Draw a triangle with 3 congruent angle measures. Okay, so what we can know with drawing a triangle with 3 congruent angle measures. So if it has 3 congruent angles, it's also going to have 3 congruent sides. So I'm just going to draw a line. Doesn't matter the length. Pick a point. The 3 congruent angle measures, well, 180 divided by 3 equals 60. So the angle measures have to be 60 degrees. So I'm lining up the point, lining up our lines here, finding 60. Well, I'm looking on the right, my 0's on the inside, so 60 is right there. This is a 60-degree angle. I can pick any side length. So let's say I pick 5 centimeters. So I'm going to line up my ruler here. I'm starting at 3, so 5 is going to be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. And let's do a 60-degree angle from there. Lining up my vertex and my lines. I'm looking on the left, my 0's on the outside, so 60 is right here. And that should be our equilateral triangle.